Cheesecake has been around for centuries, but I believe it's high time that we get it right. This is my take on American cheesecake, and I'll be teaching you how you can perfect it down to a molecular level. I think it's first important to start off with some history, though. Cheesecake's story begins in ancient Greece at around 600 BC, making its first appearance during the Olympic Games. The Romans then, in 150 AD, create labuma, which is made by grinding up farmer's cheese with a mortar and pestle, mixing that then with flour, 1 egg, and little to no sweetening. Fast forward to the late 1800s, a man named William Lawrence revolutionizes cheesecake with his new invention, cream cheese. Lindy's, a beloved restaurant from the mid-1900s in Manhattan, took Lawrence's invention and was one of the first to show America the traditional cheesecake we know today. They served it New York style with a strawberry gel drizzled on top, and people loved it. Over time, however, the recipe changed. Digestive biscuits were swapped for graham crackers, and sour cream was added for flavor and to better the cheesecake's consistency. Then Charles Lubon, the founder of the well-known company Sara Lee, also known as the Bread Company, starts his career by enlarging cheesecake's popularity. He added sour cream and other emulsifiers to his cheesecake so they would be able to be shipped frozen across the nation without spoiling. Of course, there are numerous variations of cheesecake other than the traditional American style, such as the Japanese cheesecake, a jiggly development which is more similar to a souffle, but still cheesecake nonetheless. There's also the South African amarula cheesecake, which is different because of the addition of the fruity amarula liqueur mixed into its batter and how it's topped with chocolate shaving. But now, with all this said, the traditional American cheesecake is widely beloved by many, and it will be what we are making today. Alright, we're going to start off easy here. We're just greasing our springform pan with a little butter or shortening, and then we're going to get out some parchment paper. And we're going to cut this out into a ribbon about the height of your springform pan, so 2 to 3 inches, and lace that in between your springform pan. And once you do this, it will ensure that no cheesecake leaks out, and also it'll make it easy for it to come out of the pan. Now get out your room temp ingredients. But is it really important? If you bake often, you've probably seen recipes ask for room temp ingredients, but does it really matter? In actuality, the temperature of your ingredients plays a key role in how successful it'll turn out. To see why, let's focus on our main ingredient today. And please bear with me, I do go a bit deep into this. Cream cheese is composed of both water, fat, and very important protein molecules called casein. If you've ever seen water and fats mix, you know that they really don't. That's why proteins are so important. They act as the glue that pairs these two very different molecules together. Let me show you why this is. Proteins have two sides to them. One is hydrophilic, and the other is hydrophobic. What this means is, one end of the protein attracts water, while the other side repels water and instead attracts fat. These casein proteins then have the ability to connect with the fat molecules on their hydrophobic end, creating a thin film around each one. Now, the hydrophilic end of the protein is sticking out and is able to connect with the water molecules. And when you connect all of these components together, it creates a huge matrix or web. This is what many cooks and scientists call a stable emulsion. But what does this have to do with the importance of room temperature ingredients? Well, if you have some background knowledge on chemistry, you know that as molecules heat up, they become excited and move around their container. If molecules are more active, they have higher chances of running into other substances and bonding with them rather than cold, slower moving molecules. As a result, if our cream cheese is at room temperature, it will blend more evenly with other substances. Now coming back to our talk of emulsions, as we whip the cream cheese with our other ingredients, air is then incorporated into the mixture. With more active and free cream cheese molecules that have had time to warm up, air is then able to wiggle in and trap itself within the emulsion. So now when you bake your cheesecake, instead of it becoming a cold, sunken pancake, it will come out fluffy from the air and more silky because of how well distributed this batter has become. So in short, yes, it is very important, but let's move on now. We are making our graham cracker crust. I took about 10 graham crackers here and just processed it in my food processor, and I was a little Dumbo here and I forgot to record, but I also added 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter and a quarter cup of sugar, baked it at 350 for about 10 minutes, and it ended up looking like this. Now we're moving on to our cheesecake. I took 2.5 pounds of Philadelphia cream cheese, which is about 4 packages, and I just whipped that up, incorporating that air that we talked about earlier. And then after that, we added in about 1.5 cups of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt. And once we add that in, we are just going to mix it up once more, really get that incorporated. Then we added 3/4 cup of sour cream to better our consistency, added some vanilla extract and lemon extract, one for tartness, and just blend that all up together once more. By this point, it should be looking more airy and light texture, and you'll see how silky that looks. It almost jiggles off the spoon. And now we're adding in 5 whole eggs, and it may seem like a lot, but it actually forms the framework for our cheesecake. It'll hold up a really nice structure. Just make sure to add them one at a time. Then we're going to add 2 extra egg yolks just to add a more richer flavor. Now we're going to blend that all one more time, looking really silky, and adding in our final ingredient, which is 3 tablespoons of flour. And after this is blended, you are done and we are ready to pour it in. Now we can preheat our oven to 315 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to make a little water bath just to make our cheesecake extra jiggly in the oven. And now we finally get to pour our batter in. Look how satisfying that is. But before we place it in, I also made a little tinfoil protective layer around the sides of the cheesecake, and this will ensure that there is no excess browning, just to make it look a little more perfect. And now we're going to bake that for about 60 minutes. Once that 60 minutes is up, you're going to want to turn off your oven and leave the cheesecake in there for another hour, and this is just to ensure that it won't deflate once we introduce the cheesecake to colder temperatures. Now, after an hour, it is safe to take the cheesecake out. She looks so beautiful. It's okay if it's still a little wobbly. That means it is the perfect consistency, and here she is. Alright, then I added a paper towel over the top to stop any water droplets due to condensation, and then just put some plastic wrap and left it in the fridge for a couple hours until it came down to a nice chilled temp. And she looks so beautiful. Do not do what I did here. I unwrapped my cheesecake. Just keep it in the original pan that it's in, and then you can use your gelatin then later. But I was dumb and I had to make another makeshift little pan. But anyways, now we're doing our strawberries. We're slicing them very thinly, choosing the prettiest of the batch, and you can choose whatever pattern you want, but I chose this sort of rose pattern, which I thought looked really cool. And now we're going to add our gelatin. But what exactly is gelatin? Well, first, an abundant protein called collagen is extracted from animal hides and bones through multiple boiling and filtering processes. Once that collagen has been boiled out of the bones, it's put through a process called hydrolysis. Put simply, hydrolysis is the process of breaking down a compound in the presence of water into smaller compounds, making it more digestible for human consumption and giving it more gel-like properties. This new substance formed is gelatin, also more commonly known as Jell-O, sold in stores. But how does gelatin, which is initially a powder, turn into that translucent gel? Well, gelatin is a protein, and its strands resemble this. When you place it in hot water, they become slippery and unravel, and make weak hydrogen bonds with the water molecules. Now, once you place your gelatin in the fridge to set, the protein strands cool down, suspending the water molecules in its 3D web of strands. This is what makes that gel consistency a mix between liquid and solid. And there you have it. Your gelatin is set and ready to be enjoyed. Alright, so now let's actually make it. I placed about 1/4 cup of cold water in a small bowl, and I sprinkled our gelatin in there and gently whisked it with a whisk. And this is just giving it time for the gelatin strands to unravel a little bit. And I was Dumbo here again. Yeah, I added extra water in just to help those gelatin strands really unravel some more. And now we're just going to add some red food dye. This is optional. I just thought it would look better for the cheesecake we're making. And now we finally get to pour it on. You can just slowly pour it in, making sure that it doesn't leak out of the sides. And after it's all in, we're going to put it in the fridge overnight, allowing those strands to set up, suspending our water molecules. So we'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. It is the final day. Our cheesecake is done. Look how beautiful it looks. Our gelatin is completely set. I slowly unraveled it, and I think we should just admire it for a second. You can really see the nice layers. But anyways, let's just cut this baby open. I turned on some hot water. We're going to place a knife into it so that our knife is heated up and it will make this nice smooth cut and it will look perfect. I was actually really scared when I was cutting this because I wanted to get the perfect shot. But it did end up looking really good, as you can see here. I placed an extra strawberry on top just for the aesthetic. And it's finally done. I even gave my dogs a little taste test. But now let's try it out for ourselves. Alright, the cheesecake is done. It turned out amazing. We had already eaten like half of the cheesecake by the time I'm filming this, so it's a big hit. The different textures are really amazing. You know, we have this nice separation of layers with our crust, our fluffy, more aerated part of the dish, and then our gelatin, which I think really added a nice aspect, and is a little different than the other traditional approach of adding gelatin right into the cheesecake itself, which I'm not really a fan of. I sort of like the, I don't know, I guess you wouldn't call it decomposed, more separated version. So let's try it, honestly. I'm excited. I'm the last person to try this. Like, my siblings, my parents, my pets have eaten this except me, so. That is really good, actually. By really whipping the cream cheese and slowly adding in those eggs, it really built up a nice structure that's, you know, not too dense. I wouldn't really call this a New York cheesecake. It's a bit more fluffy. And it has this, like, I don't know how you would describe it, just a really airy texture. Like, you can feel the air pockets in between it, which is really nice flavor. But I really hope you guys try out this recipe. I will link all of my resources down below in the description. I would appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to learn more about food science and the way that your food works. Try this out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!